I'm standing on my own front porch with a laundry basket balanced against my hip when Gail smiles at me. It's that particular smile of hers. The one I've seen across my dinner table for a decade. The one that always looked warm and familiar and safe. Today it looks different. Today there's something behind it that I don't have a word for yet, but that I feel immediately in the center of my chest, the way you feel a cold draft before you find the open window. "Deb," she says. Her voice is soft, gentle. The voice of someone delivering news they've decided you need to hear a certain way. "Scott asked me to handle the house from now on." I stare at her. She's standing on my porch, on the welcome mat I bought 4 summers ago. In front of the door I've walked through 10,000 times. My laundry basket is heavy against my hip, and my left shoulder is still weak from the port removal 3 months ago, and I am looking at Gail, who has been our family friend for 10 years, and she is telling me she's going to handle my house. Then she holds up a key. My key. I recognize it by the small blue rubber cover I put on it 3 years ago because I kept mixing it up with the spare for my mother's old place. I look at the blue rubber cover on my own key in Gail's hand, and something goes very still inside me. "Gail," I say carefully, "where did you get that?" She opens her mouth to answer, but then the front door opens behind her and Scott is there. My husband of 28 years, standing in the doorway of our house, looking at me holding a laundry basket on our porch, looking at Gail holding my key with the blue cover. And he doesn't correct her. He doesn't say, "Actually, Gail, I need to explain that." He doesn't say, "Deb, I should have told you about this." He doesn't move toward me with an apology forming on his face. He stands in the doorway of my house, and he doesn't say a word. And that silence is louder than anything Gail has said. My name is Deb. I'm 52 years old, and I've been married to Scott for 28 years. I'm not going to tell you marriage is simple. Nobody who's been in one for 28 years would say that. There are seasons in a long marriage, some of them warm and connected, some of them cold and distant, and most of them somewhere in between. The last 2 years have been hard. Not the hard that breaks things, I thought. Just the hard of illness, of fear, of both of us carrying something heavier than we expected. I was diagnosed 14 months ago. Breast cancer, caught in the middle range, not early, not late. The treatment was brutal in the way chemotherapy is always brutal. It reorganized my entire life around a schedule of nausea and exhaustion and the slow, strange experience of watching your own body fight itself. Scott was there through it. He drove me to appointments. He sat in the treatment room sometimes. He was present in the physical sense, in the same rooms, performing the actions of a supportive husband. Gail was there too. She's been coming to our house for a decade. Started as a friend from Scott's old professional network, became a fixture at holidays and summer dinners, the kind of person who gets woven into your life so gradually you stop noticing the weaving. During my treatment, she brought food, called to check in, sent cards. I thought she was a blessing. I'm standing on my porch with my laundry basket, and I'm looking at my husband, who won't meet my eyes, and something I should have examined more carefully 2 years ago is starting to come into focus. I set the laundry basket down on the porch. "Scott," I say, "did you give her my key?" He doesn't answer right away. He shifts his weight. He looks at the porch railing instead of at. He is 54 years old and has been my husband for 28 years. And right now he looks like a teenager who didn't do his homework and is hoping nobody calls on him. Then he says it, quietly, almost under his breath. "It was just easier." Easier, I carry that word with me when I follow them inside. I set the laundry basket in the hallway, and I walk into my own kitchen, and I watch Gail move through it. She's not standing there. She's moving, pulling open drawers, shifting things from one place to another. Reorganizing the junk drawer with the specific efficiency of someone who has already decided how things should be arranged and is implementing that decision. My kitchen, my drawers, my coffee mugs being moved to a different cabinet because Gail has decided they should live somewhere else. "You've been through so much," she says without turning around. Her voice is warm and full of concern. "You shouldn't have to worry about managing everything. Let us take over. You just focus on getting your strength back." Let us take over. I stand in the kitchen doorway and watch her, and I feel something that isn't quite anger yet. It's more like the cold clarity that comes just before anger arrives. The moment when you're seeing something so clearly that your body hasn't caught up yet. Scott is at the kitchen table. He's looking at his phone. "Gail," I say. "Please leave my drawers the way they are." She turns and smiles. "Of course, I just thought." "The way they are," I say. She nods, pleasantly. The smile doesn't waver. I excuse myself and go to the hall cabinet where I keep my household binder. The binder with the insurance documents, the utility account information, the emergency contacts, the property tax records. The binder I've maintained for 15 years because I am the person in this house who keeps track of where things are and when they're due and what needs to happen next. The cabinet is there. The space where the binder goes is there. The binder is not. I check again. Move 2 things. Check behind them. Open the next cabinet. The binder is gone. I go back to the kitchen. "Gail," I say. "My document binder. The blue one. Where is it?" She turns from the counter with an expression of helpful concern. "Oh, I moved it, just for safety, while things are being organized." "Where did you move it?" "It's safe," she says. "Don't worry." I look at Scott. He's still at the table, still looking at his phone. "Scott," he looks up. "She's just trying to help Deb." I walk past them and go to the hall closet. The fireproof safe lives on the second shelf of the hall closet. It's dark gray with a combination lock. It contains our passports, the deed to the house, our wills, the titles to both cars, and the original copy of my father's deed transfer for the land he left me 7 years ago when he died. It's been on that shelf since we moved into this house. I know exactly where it lives. The shelf is empty. I turn around. Gail is in the hallway. She's watched me go to the closet. Her expression is the same pleasant concern it's been since the porch. "Oh, that," she says, before I can speak, before I can ask. She says it with the tone of someone who has already prepared this answer. "Scott told me to store it somewhere more secure." I look past her at Scott, who has appeared in the hallway. "You told her to take my fire safe?" I say. "She was just being careful," he says. "While you were resting." While I was resting. While I was in my own home, recovering from cancer treatment, someone moved my documents and my fire safe with my husband's permission. The cold clarity from earlier has sharpened into something with harder edges. 2 days later, Scott tells me we have a meeting. He says it at dinner, casually, like announcing a dentist appointment. "We're meeting Gail and a financial advisor tomorrow." His fork doesn't stop moving. His eyes stay on his plate. 10 o'clock. "I wasn't aware we needed a financial advisor," I say. "It's just to get things organized." He takes a drink of water. "While you've been focused on getting better, some things have gotten complicated. Gail knows someone who can help us structure things." I think about the word structure, about how it sounds helpful and neutral and reasonable until you ask what exactly is being structured and for whose benefit. "What things have gotten complicated?" I ask. "Business stuff, old stuff." He still won't look at me directly. "It's fine. Gail has it handled." Gail has it handled. My husband is telling me that a woman who took my key and moved my documents and removed my fire safe without asking me has our finances handled. I'm quiet for the rest of dinner. After Scott goes upstairs, I sit at the kitchen table with a glass of water and I think. I think about the last 2 years. About how much of my energy went into treatment and recovery and simply surviving. About how much I let slide. How many conversations I didn't push, how many things I assumed were fine because I didn't have the capacity to verify them. About how much of my life I left unattended while I was focused on staying alive. The next morning, we drive to the meeting. A small office building downtown. A man named Roger Weiss who shakes my hand warmly and calls himself a financial planner. He slides a form across the table. Durable power of attorney. My name is already printed on it. Gail says, "Just sign so Scott isn't stressed about managing everything alone." I pick up the form and I start reading it from the beginning. The power of attorney document is 4 pages. I read all 4 pages. Slowly. While Roger Weiss sits with his professional patience, and Scott shifts in his chair, and Gail watches me with the expression she uses when she's waiting for something. A durable power of attorney grants the named agent broad authority over financial decisions. This one names Gail as agent. It covers bank accounts, property transactions, investments, legal filings, and healthcare decisions in specific circumstances. It is a document you sign because someone else is stressed. It is a document that once signed gives another person significant legal authority over your life. I turn to the last page. There's a signature line at the bottom. Above it, in the space where the grantor signs to make the document valid, is a signature, my name. In handwriting that looks like mine, the way a reflection looks like you. Same basic shape. Something slightly off in the way the letters connect. I didn't sign this document. I have never seen this document before today. I look up. I didn't sign this, I say. My voice is level. I keep it deliberately level because the room is full of people who are going to tell me I'm confused. Scott goes pale. The color just drains from his face like water from a tub. Gail laughs. A short, soft laugh that carries the specific condescension of someone who has decided their version of events is more reliable than yours. Chemo brain is real, honey, she says. The memory issues are documented. Roger Weiss has gone still. He's looking at the signature page. Then at me. Then at the signature page again. He reaches for his phone. I need to make a call, he says. His voice is careful. If you'll excuse me for a moment. The drive home is silent. Scott drives. Gail is not with us. She stayed behind at Roger Weiss's office, something about clarifying the paperwork, which is a phrase that tells me nothing I believe. I sit in the passenger seat of my own car and I look out the window and I think about the 4 pages of a document I've never seen with a signature that looks like mine. Chemo brain. That's what she said. Easy to say. Hard to disprove in the moment. The kind of thing that sounds medically plausible and works as an explanation for anything you want to dismiss. I was not confused. I did not forget signing a power of attorney that names Gail as my agent for financial decisions. I would not forget that. That is not the kind of thing you forget and then recall later. We get home. Scott goes inside ahead of me. I follow. He says in the kitchen, without turning to face me, "Can you just let this go? She's trying to help, and you're making it into something it isn't." She had a signature on that document, I say. My signature, that I didn't write. You were exhausted when it was drafted. Maybe. Scott? He turns. I did not sign that document. He looks at me for a long moment. Then he looks at the counter. You're embarrassing me, he says. These are people who are trying to help us. I stop the conversation. I go to the bedroom and I pick up my phone and I look at the screen. There is a bank notification I didn't set up, from the bank I've used for 22 years. Login attempt from new device successfully authenticated. I stare at the notification. I didn't authenticate a login from a new device. I didn't try to log in from anywhere. I was sitting in a meeting with a financial advisor, looking at a document with a forged signature on it. I open my banking app, enter my password. Access denied. Incorrect password. I try again. Access denied. My password has been changed. On the same day I was sitting in that office, someone changed the password on my bank account. I close the app and sit on the edge of the bed. I need to think clearly. Not reactively. Clearly. What I know. A key to my house was given to Gail without my consent. My documents were moved without my consent. My fire safe was removed without my consent. A power of attorney with a forged signature was prepared for me to sign additional pages on. And now my bank account password has been changed while I was out of the house. This is not a series of coincidences. This is not a well-meaning friend overstepping. This is a pattern. I go back downstairs. Scott is watching television. Like nothing happened. Like we didn't just come from a meeting where our family friend had a forged signature on a legal document. I don't say anything to him right now. I go to the kitchen and I open my laptop and I try to access my bank account through the website. The email address on file has been changed. I request a reset and the confirmation goes to an address I don't recognize. I write it down. Then I write down everything else. The key, the binder, the safe, the meeting, the signature, the bank notification, the changed password, the changed email, every detail, every date, every time I can verify. I am building a record. In the morning, I call the bank's customer service line. I verify my identity through their security questions, which I can still answer because they require information only I would know. Date of account opening, mother's maiden name, first address on the account. I get through. I asked to speak with a representative about account security. The woman who comes on is efficient and careful. I explain that I believe my account contact information has been changed without my authorization. I ask for the details of any recent changes. She checks. I hear typing. There was a contact update process 2 days ago, she says. Email address and phone number. I didn't make those changes. The update was submitted through our online portal. What phone number was added? I ask. She reads me the last 4 digits. They're not mine. I don't recognize them. I write them down. Is there a recovery email on file? I ask. She reads me the address. It's the same address I wrote down last night when I tried to reset my own password. Not my email. Not any email I have ever used. I ask for the fraud department. I'm transferred. I explain everything to the fraud representative from the beginning. The changed contact information, the unauthorized login, the forged signature on the power of attorney. I use precise, calm language. I don't editorialize. I report what I can verify. He opens a case. Then I call the number Gail has been reaching me at and I tell her nothing about the bank. I keep my voice completely normal. I ask, casually, how things are going, and Gail answers sweetly for 2 minutes. Then I say, I'm just wondering about the timeline for returning my documents. And something shifts in her voice, fast and cold. If you fight me, she says, you'll lose Scott. He's tired of carrying you. I hear it clearly, every word. She hangs up, and my front door keypad beeps. The keypad has a 2-digit display that shows status messages. I'm in the kitchen when I hear the beep, and I go to the front hallway and look at the panel. It says, code updated. I type in my code, invalid. I try the backup code, invalid. I stand in the front hallway of my house looking at a keypad that doesn't recognize my codes. My phone buzzes. It's a text from Scott. Gail updated it. She thought it was safer. Stop panicking. I read that text 3 times. Gail updated the keypad code on my front door. My name is on the deed to this house. I have lived here for 16 years. I have used that keypad code for 3 years. And Gail, who does not live here, who is not on the deed, who is not a resident of this property in any legal or practical sense, updated the code to the lock on my front door. And my husband texted me to tell me to stop panicking about it. I am standing in my house and the front door will not open for me. The temptation to react is real. To call Scott, to call Gail, to bang on things and demand answers loudly in the way that feels satisfying for about 30 seconds before it makes everything worse. I don't. I stand in the hallway and I breathe. In and out. The same breathing I learned in treatment when things felt out of control. Slow and deliberate, and focusing on what I can actually do rather than what I can't. I go to my phone. I need to write down the time and the keypad message and Scott's text. I need documentation of this moment, and then I need to get to the bank in person. Because a phone report is one thing. Being present, being able to identify myself with my actual face and my actual ID is something else. I take photos first. The keypad display showing code updated, Scott's text on my screen, the timestamp. I photograph each thing carefully, clearly, making sure the date and time are visible in each frame. Then I go through the house to the back door, which I can open manually since Gail apparently only updated the front keypad. I get in my car. I sit in the driveway for a moment. I think about what Deacon Riley, a wise older man from our church who was close to my father, once told me when I was going through treatment. Deb, when everything feels like it's being taken from you, the one thing nobody can take is how you respond. I respond by driving to the bank. I walk in, take a number, wait for a manager. A woman named Patricia Halloran comes to the desk with the professional warmth of someone who handles difficult conversations regularly. I show her my ID, my account number, everything I have. I explain the situation calmly. The changed contact information, the unauthorized access, the password change, the recovery email I don't recognize. Patricia Halloran types. She reads. She types again, then she turns her monitor slightly toward me. A form was submitted 3 weeks ago, she says, requesting contact information updates. It was submitted with authorization. She points to the screen. There's a notary stamp on the supporting documentation. My mouth goes dry. Can I see the notary's name? I ask. She shows me. The notary's name is someone local, someone I've never met, but someone whose stamp appears on a document authorizing changes to my bank account that I never requested. Do you want to file a fraud report? She asks quietly. Yes, I say. I want to file everything. Patricia Halloran walks me through the bank's fraud process with the efficiency of someone who knows exactly what the steps are. She's seen this before, not with my specific details, but with this shape of situation. The careful way she handles it tells me that much. We go through every step: formal fraud report, flag on the account, temporary freeze on any contact information changes, requirement for in-person verification for any future account modifications. When we're done, she hands me the case number and a printed summary. Keep this, she says, and if you can get more documentation of the notary information, add it to your report. I thank her and I leave. I sit in my car in the bank parking lot and I look at the notary's name I wrote down. Someone I don't know, whose stamp appears on a form that authorized changes to my bank account without my knowledge. I think about the power of attorney document from the meeting. With its signature, that wasn't mine. I pull out my phone and I search the notary's name along with notary license in our state's public database. The license is valid. The notary is real. But a notary is only supposed to notarize documents when the signing party is present in person, shows valid ID, and signs in the notary's presence. If I didn't sign that bank authorization form, then either the notary notarized a document without meeting me, or the document was presented to the notary with a fake ID, or the notary is involved. Any of those possibilities is serious. I drive home. When I come through the back door, since the front keypad still doesn't recognize my code, Gail is in my living room, sitting in my armchair, in my living room, like she lives there. Gail looks up when I come in. She has the presence of a woman who is exactly where she believes she belongs. No hesitation, no flicker of anything that looks like the awareness that she is sitting in another woman's house without being invited. Deb, she smiles. I was hoping you'd be back soon. We need to talk about the next steps. Scott is standing near the bookshelf. He has his hands in his pockets and the expression of a man caught between two weather systems. Next steps for what? I say. For managing things, Gail says. The accounts, the property, your recovery plan. She says it all in one smooth sentence, like it's an obvious and agreed upon list. We're protecting you from yourself, honestly. You're not in the right headspace to be making financial decisions right now. I look at her, in my armchair. Protecting me from myself, I repeat. It comes from love, she says. Then she does something that stops the room. She reaches beside the armchair and lifts something onto the coffee table. My fire safe. The one that was taken from my hall closet. The one that Scott told me Gail stored somewhere secure. It's sitting on my coffee table. Open. The combination lock I've had for 9 years, the one only Scott and I know the code for, is hanging unlocked. She's been in it. I don't react outwardly. I make every effort to keep my face neutral, to breathe normally, to appear like someone processing, rather than someone in crisis. Inside the safe, I can see the passports, the car titles, the will, and a space where my father's deed transfer papers should be. I look at the space in the safe where my father's documents should be. I look at it long enough to be absolutely certain it's not just misfiling. The deed transfer from when my father left me his land in the county 3 hours north of us. The original transfer documents and the title history. The papers I've kept in that safe since the day the estate attorney handed them to me 7 years ago. They're gone. Gail is watching me look at the safe. Her expression is the same pleasant attentiveness it always is. She's watching my reaction. Something's missing, I say. My voice is steady. Oh? She tilts her head. What are you looking for? My father's deed transfer documents. Poon. She makes the considering sound of someone who is not actually considering anything. Maybe you moved them? You've been dealing with a lot. I look at Scott. He says, maybe you took them out to look at something and forgot. I think about chemo brain. About how useful that phrase is to people who want to explain away a woman's accurate memories. I didn't move them, I say. I don't say anything else right now. Because what I need is not this conversation. What I need is a computer with an internet connection and the county property records database. I excuse myself. I go upstairs. I open my laptop. Our county has an online portal for property filings. Frank's, my late father's land, is registered in a county 3 hours north. But that county also has an online search function. I search for the parcel number I memorized years ago. The record comes up. Current status, pending filing request, initiated 8 days ago. The mailing address for the request: a P.O. box. In town. I know the library on Westbrook Avenue stays open until 8 on weekdays. I drive there at 4 in the afternoon and I ask for Hannah Pierce, the reference librarian who has helped me research things for 20 years. She's in her 60s, precise, the kind of person who treats information as sacred and searches as serious work. I show her what I've found on my laptop, the pending filing on my father's land. The P.O. box listed as the mailing address. I need to trace that P.O. box, I say. And I need to see what other filings it appears on. Hannah asks no questions about why. She sits down at the reference terminal and she searches. She pulls the P.O. box through the county business registry, through public court filings, through the property records database. The P.O. box number appears on a filing from 3 years ago, then one from 18 months ago, then the current pending filing on my land. Different properties, different transactions, but the same P.O. box. Hannah types the name associated with the P.O. box registration. Gail Bremert, Gail's P.O. box, attached to multiple property filings over 3 years. Hannah keeps searching. Her face has gone very still in the way it does when she's finding something significant. "Look at this," she says quietly. She turns the screen slightly toward me. Other searches connected to Gail's name. Court records, creditor filings, judgment records. Gail has liens against her. Multiple creditors pursuing collection. A civil judgment from 2 years ago on an unpaid loan. Financial devastation, documented across multiple court filings. Hannah pulls another search. Another name associated with the same P.O. box. A third property filing from 4 years ago. A different county. A different name on the deed. A name I don't recognize. But the pattern I recognize immediately. I sit next to Hannah at the reference terminal and I look at the third property filing. 4 years ago. A different county. A parcel of land with an owner who is now deceased, whose estate the filing attempted to access through a pending management authorization. The P.O. box is the same one. The format of the filing is nearly identical to what's been initiated on my land. "Someone else," I say. Hannah nods slowly. "This P.O. box shows up in a pattern," she says. "Different people, different properties, same mechanism. Gail has done this before. Not just to me. Not a desperate first attempt at taking something that wasn't hers. A pattern. A practiced sequence. A method she's refined over years. I think about what she told me on the phone. If you fight me, you'll lose Scott. He's tired of carrying you. I think about a woman who targets people in vulnerable situations, who looks for the combination of something worth taking and someone too exhausted or overwhelmed to fight back. Who looked at me, a woman recovering from chemotherapy, with a distracted husband and a decade of trust built through holiday dinners and birthday cards and casseroles dropped off during treatment, and saw an opportunity. I am not her first family. I drive home with everything Hannah printed for me in a folder on the passenger seat. I need to have a very specific conversation with Scott, and I need to have it tonight. I find Scott in the garage. He's puttering, which is what he does when he's avoiding something. Reorganizing tools that don't need reorganizing. Moving things from one shelf to another with the focus of a man who has too much in his head and is trying to keep his hands busy so his brain has somewhere to go. I close the garage door. Just us. "I need you to tell me the truth," I say. He keeps his back to me. "About what?" "About Gail. About what she offered you." Long pause. His hands go still on the tool shelf. "Scott, I know about your old business debt. I've known for a while that you've been struggling with something you haven't told me about. I'm not here to shame you about it. I'm here to understand what happened." He turns. His face looks the way faces look when a decision has been made and the relief of it is mixing with the shame. Like a man who has been carrying something he was never meant to carry alone. He tells me, "The business debt goes back 5 years before my diagnosis. Bad contracts, a failed partnership, obligations he couldn't meet. He didn't tell me because he was embarrassed, and then because I got sick and he couldn't add to what I was already carrying. Gail found out about the debt 6 months ago. He doesn't know how. She came to him privately and offered to make it go away. in exchange for helping her access my accounts and my property documents, in exchange for my cooperation, or if I wouldn't cooperate, his assistance in working around me. His voice shakes when he says the last part. She said it would just be temporary, he says. A restructuring. She said you'd understand eventually. Did you give her copies of my ID? He looks at the floor. Scott? Yes, he says, very quietly. I sleep in the guest room that night. Not dramatically. Not as a statement. I just need to be in a space that feels entirely mine, right? Now, and the guest room is the one room in the house that Gail hasn't reorganized or touched, so it's the one room where everything is still in the position I last put it. I lie there in the dark and think about next steps. Not about Scott. Not yet. Not about Gail, or the recordings I made of her phone call, or the documents Hannah printed. Those will matter. But right now, I need to organize my thinking around what's actually at risk and what the most effective way to protect it is. My bank account has a fraud report filed. The contact information change is flagged. The property filing on my father's land is pending but not completed. Pending means it can still be stopped. The power of attorney with the forged signature. That's the piece that has the most immediate legal implications. I need someone who knows what to do with all of this. Not a bank manager, not a reference librarian, not a friend. An attorney. In the morning, I make a list. Everything documented. Dates, amounts, sequences. The key being given away. The documents moved. The fire safe removed and accessed. The meeting and the forged signature. The bank contact changes and the fraud report case number. Scott's admission about my ID. The P.O. box connecting Gail to other property filings. Hannah's printed research. Then I call the number that Deacon Riley gave me when I called him the previous evening. He'd listened to everything I said and then asked if I wanted a name. Vivian Knox. Property law and financial fraud. 16 years practicing. Her assistant schedules me for 9 in the morning. I arrive at 8:55. Vivian Knox does not look like the kind of attorney you see on billboards. She's in her 50s. Practical clothing, no unnecessary decoration. Her office has 2 filing cabinets that are fully labeled and a whiteboard with case elements written in small, organized handwriting. She shakes my hand and she listens. I give her everything in sequence. I have my folder organized by date. Every document, every note, every photo, she reads through without interrupting. She asks 2 questions when I finish. Has any property actually transferred yet? Not yet. The filing on my land is pending. And the power of attorney with the forged signature, was it ever submitted to any institution? Roger Weiss has a copy. I don't know what he did with it after the meeting. She nods. She makes notes. Then she tells me what she's going to do. She drafts a fraud affidavit to the bank, formalizing my dispute beyond the initial fraud report and specifically naming the notarized authorization form as containing a fraudulent signature. She files a formal dispute with the county records office challenging the pending property filing on my father's land as unauthorized and potentially fraudulent. She sends a demand letter to Gail requiring the immediate return of all documents, the fire-safe contents, and the original power of attorney packet. And I'm sending a formal notice to Roger Weiss, she says, making clear that any document submitted for me in connection with your accounts or property without your verified in-person signature is fraudulent. She sets her pen down. One more thing. The notary. I need the notary's name. I slide the paper across. She looks at it. I'm going to subpoena the notary's official logbook, she says. Every legitimate notary keeps a detailed log. If you were never present for a signing, there won't be an accurate entry. She pauses. If Gail tries to rush anything, she'll try to rush a transfer of your property. Once my notices land, she'll know her window is closing. The notices go out within 24 hours. Vivian works fast in the organized, undramatic way that I find more reassuring than any amount of fire and urgency would be. She sends each notice through certified channels, tracks the deliveries, follows up. The bank acknowledges the fraud affidavit and confirms the account freeze on unauthorized changes. The county records office flags the pending filing on my land and opens a review period during which no transfer can be completed without additional verified documentation. Roger Weiss's office receives Vivian's notice and goes very quiet, which Vivian tells me is typical. Financial advisors don't want any part of a fraud investigation, she says. He'll distance himself immediately. Then, 3 days after the notices land, Gail does something I didn't fully anticipate. Not a counteroffer. Not a legal challenge to Vivian's filings. Not an attempt to contact Scott. She files for an emergency guardianship. The paperwork states that I am cognitively impaired due to ongoing medical treatment, and am therefore unable to manage my own financial affairs. It cites my chemotherapy as the basis for the impairment claim. It requests that Gail be named as temporary guardian with authority over my financial decisions and property management. Vivian calls me when it lands. She's escalating, she says. The guardianship petition goes to a hearing in 5 days. The hearing is public record. Anyone can read it. Anyone who searches my name in the court system will find a petition claiming I'm cognitively impaired. It's a public humiliation and a legal power grab at the same time. Can we fight it? I ask. We can win it, she says. But I need specific things from you in the next 48 hours. Vivian's list is specific and urgent. Medical records from my treatment team showing my current cognitive status. Not my treatment records themselves. I don't have to disclose my full medical history. But a statement from my oncologist and a cognitive function assessment from the neuropsychologist who screened me during treatment. I call my oncologist's office that afternoon. Dr. Ann Weatherby has been my doctor for 14 months. Her nurse takes my message and Dr. Weatherby calls me back within 2 hours. When I explain what's happening, Dr. Weatherby goes quiet for a moment. Then she says, I'm going to write the clearest letter I have ever written. I call my employer next. I've been back at work part-time for 3 months since finishing treatment. My supervisor is a woman named Caroline, who has managed my return with care and professionalism. When I explain what I need, she says she'll have a character and competency statement from HR by end of business. Vivian files a formal request for the notary's official logbook through the court system. The logbook arrives within 48 hours. Vivian calls me the afternoon it arrives. The log doesn't have an entry matching the date on the bank authorization form, she says. There's no record of the notary meeting with you on that date. No ID verification entry. No document description, no client signature in the log for that day. What does that mean? It means either she wasn't there when the document was supposedly notarized, or the document was notarized under false pretenses. She pauses. Either way, the notarization is invalid, and that means the bank authorization form it supports is invalid. She adds, and I cross-reference the same notary stamp number. It appears on the power of attorney document from Roger Weiss's meeting. Same notary. 2 fraudulent documents. The hearing is on a Thursday morning. I wear what I would wear to any professional meeting. Nothing performative, nothing that says, I'm trying to prove a point through clothing. Just what I normally wear when I want to be taken seriously. Vivian is beside me. She carries 2 folders. Gail arrives with an attorney. A man I don't know, who seems to have been briefed on the performance aspect of this hearing, because his manner throughout the proceeding is theatrical, in a way that experienced legal professionals usually find counterproductive. The judge is a woman named Judge Patricia Bream. She has reading glasses that she uses with precision. She has the manner of someone who has presided over many hearings and has developed a reliable instinct for the difference between genuine distress and performed distress. Gail's attorney presents the guardianship petition. He describes me as struggling, confused, impaired. He references my treatment. He uses the words cognitively compromised twice. He produces from somewhere a statement that purports to be from someone who observed me showing signs of confusion in recent months. Then he produces the power of attorney document with the signature. And he says I signed it and have since forgotten. Vivian presents her case without theater. Dr. Weatherby's letter first. Clean, professional, specific. I have no cognitive impairment. My decision-making capacity is intact. The treatment did not cause lasting neurological effects. Then Caroline's statement from my employer confirming my return to work and my demonstrated competence in my role. Then the notary logbook. Vivian walks the judge through it. The date on the bank authorization form. The date on the power of attorney. The notary log showing no entry for either date, no record of my presence, no ID verification. Judge Bream looks at the documents. Then she looks at Gail. The courtroom is not large. It fits comfortably the people who are supposed to be there and a few who chose to attend. Deacon Riley is in the third row. Hannah Pierce from the library is in the fourth. Judge Bream looks at Gail over her reading glasses. "Miss Bremert," she says, "the notary whose stamp appears on 2 documents you've relied upon in this proceeding has no log entry confirming that Miss Deb was present at either signing." Gail's attorney starts to respond. The judge holds up one hand. "I'm addressing your client, Mr. Alderton." She looks back at Gail. "Where did you obtain the ID copies used to support the bank authorization form?" Gail's expression, which has been the warm, concerned expression of a devoted friend throughout the proceeding, develops a crack. It's small. Anyone who wasn't watching carefully might miss it. But I've been watching Gail's face across dinner tables for 10 years. I know what it looks like when she's processing something she didn't expect, and I can see her processing this question right now. "I'm not sure what you mean," she says. The bank submitted documentation showing verified ID was presented alongside the authorization form, ID that matched the account holder's information. I'm asking you where those ID documents came from. Gail looks at her attorney. He looks at his notes. Neither of them answers quickly enough. And then Scott, who has been sitting in the gallery since the hearing began, who has been silent through everything, stands up. He says, "I can answer that." Judge Bream looks at Scott. "Are you a party to this proceeding?" she asks. "No, Your Honor. I'm Deb's husband. I have information relevant to the question." The judge allows it. Scott comes forward. He stands at the edge of the proceedings without fully entering the space designated for parties and counsel. He holds his hands together in front of him. He looks like a man who has made a decision he should have made sooner, and knows it. His voice shakes at the beginning. It steadies. He explains the business debt. Gail approaching him privately. The offer to resolve his financial obligations in exchange for his help. He tells the judge about giving Gail copies of my ID, about being told to handle the papers while I was exhausted from treatment, about being told the power of attorney was just a formality. He says, "I believed her, and I should have known better." The judge listens without interrupting. When Scott finishes, Judge Bream looks at her notes for a moment. Then she looks at Gail's attorney. "Mr. Alderton, I'm going to need a recess. When we reconvene, I'll want to see documentation of every document your client produced, every authorization she claims to have obtained, and the complete record of her contact with the financial institutions involved." She looks at Gail directly. If the documents were obtained through fraud, and what I'm hearing today suggests that is a significant possibility, this proceeding becomes something very different from a guardianship matter. She closes her notes. This court is temporarily recessed. She stands. As she does, she turns to her clerk and says something I can just barely hear from where I'm sitting. "Get the county fraud investigator's office on the phone." The guardianship petition is dismissed before the end of the afternoon session. Judge Bream reconvenes and reads her decision clearly. The petition lacks the evidentiary foundation required. The medical testimony contradicts the claims of cognitive impairment. The notary documentation undermines the legal instruments the petition relies upon, and the circumstances by which authorization documents were obtained raise serious concerns requiring further investigation. Dismissed with a formal warning attached to the record. The warning notes that filing a guardianship petition based on fabricated evidence creates legal exposure for the petitioner. The warning will be part of the court record. After the ruling, Vivian files 2 more things. A formal complaint with the State Notary Oversight Board regarding the notary whose stamp appeared on both fraudulent documents, and a referral to the county fraud investigator consistent with what Judge Bream indicated, documenting the property filing and the bank authorization fraud. The bank, upon receiving Vivian's formal notification of the court's findings, restores my full account access. They remove the unauthorized contact information and replace it with mine. They flag Gail's name in their system. The county records office, notified of the court's fraud findings, rejects the pending filing on my father's land. The parcel remains in my name, unencumbered, exactly as my father intended when he left it to me 7 years ago. I drive home after the hearing alone, not because Vivian isn't available, Not because Deacon Riley didn't offer. I drive home alone because I want the drive to be mine. Inside the house, I go to the hall closet. Vivian arranged for the fire safe to be returned by court order 2 days before the hearing. It's back on its shelf. My father's deed transfer documents are back inside it, recovered through the court process, every original page accounted for. I sit in the kitchen at the table where I have eaten thousands of meals in this house, and I let myself be still. The next day, Scott brings a bag to the back door. He's moving to his brother's place for a while. He says it simply, without argument or negotiation. He says he needs to take responsibility for what he participated in, and living in the house, while things are being sorted out, isn't fair to me. I don't beg him to stay. I don't ask him to go. I hold the door while he carries the bag to his car, and I watch him drive away. I close the door. I sit in the kitchen again. I think about what choosing yourself actually means, not the dramatic version. Not the version in movies where someone makes a speech or walks away from something in slow motion while inspiring music plays. The real version, which is quieter, which looks like a woman sitting in her kitchen after a long, hard thing has finally ended and feeling not triumphant but clean, like the air after rain. Like the specific relief of a weight being set down. Gail came into my life as a family friend. She looked at my cancer, my exhaustion, my trusting husband, and my father's land, and she saw an opportunity. She built a plan around my vulnerability and executed it with patience. She miscalculated one thing. She thought vulnerability was weakness. She didn't understand that the same woman who survived 14 months of chemotherapy while keeping her family together and her documents organized was not going to be quietly redirected. She miscalculated what I was made of. The front keypad now has my code. My code and no one else's. The locksmith changed it the morning after the hearing. My documents are in my cabinet. My fire safe is on its shelf. My accounts have my contact information. My house is mine. And the family friend who tried to take it is leaving court without her audience, without her documents, without her P.O. Box connections serving her anymore, with nothing but the record of what she did following her wherever she goes. That record is permanent. So is my house. I make coffee. I sit in my kitchen. The afternoon light comes through the window the way it always does. I am exactly where I belong.